Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Good morning to lecture number 8 in the lecture series of Introduction to Interaction Design. So, in the last lecture we saw the role of cognition and how understanding the human cognition, how it processes information, how it retrieves information is very important for designers to design better interactive applications for human use. So, in today's lecture we will see the role of social interaction, that how the social interaction is important, and this whole fabric of social interaction is really important to understand for designers, so that we are able to integrate some of those important factors that govern how we interact with other people. And because technology is now entering into our life in such a way that it has really enmeshed itself, wherein we now also talk with people who are much away from us. So, the way we interact with people or how our social connections are designed or how we operate within those, it will also govern that how do we design better interactions. So, humans are social animals, and we like to work together, learn together, we live together, we do not like to be isolated. And recently, in the past couple of decades, a lot of technologies have been developed which specifically help enable us to persist in a social realm wherein we are not even physically probably present there. So, this includes smartphones that almost everyone of us has now, video chat, social medias, gaming, messaging, all of these really help us get involved in the social practice even when we may be virtually present there. Now, face to face conversations are central to us even in current situation in many of these areas of life, like going to the office or going to a lecture class. But the role of social media has really increased, and people spend from minutes to hours on a platform like that. So, the minute we wake up till the time we go to bed, some of us maybe even first thing we do is pick out our phone and check our emails or messages that we have received maybe while we were sleeping, to catch up on all the activities or to check the news and other things. So, it gets very important that how do we integrate these face to face conversations in the digital interactions. Now, talking is something that comes very effortlessly to us, because since the time we were a child, we have been talked to and we reply. So, we know how the whole talking mechanism works. But when we have to hold a conversation for an elongated period of time, so it requires certain skills and some collaborative techniques that will ensure that this conversation is meaningful and something is gained from it. So, there are researches that have been conducted wherein people have found that, especially nowadays youngsters, because when we were younger the only entertainment probably available to us was Doordarshan, but now children have so many options that even a 2-year-old can operate a mobile very easily as compared to maybe their grandfather or father. So, researchers have been conducted to see that how this enmeshing of technology in our lives, how does it affect over a longer period of study. So, what some of the studies indicate is that when somebody is engaging in these technologies far too long, and we see that all around us in homes, people are in the same room but they are either on a laptop or phone or some other device watching TV. Even in restaurants where people go for a social sort of gathering, that is one of the main purposes of eating out, but there also people will just whip out their phones and they are checking something or the other. So, it has shown that how it sort of disconnects one from other people, how it kills that socialness or the feeling of being for the other person, and that also affects the empathy that we feel for other people, because empathy is generated only when we are interacting with people, we are talking with them, sharing our problems, and then we feel the empathy. So which is a very important point in the design thinking process that we had seen in the earlier lecture. So, but technology is not going away anywhere, all these medias are also not going anywhere. So then it becomes very important for designers that how do we integrate these technologies, these interfaces with this learning from how people interact in a social situation, because already there are so many ways that we get feedback. So the technology or the application is mimicking almost, or at least the attempt is there for it to respond to us just like a normal person does. So how can we even improve it further so that we don't miss out on this empathy and many other things that probably will also be affected. So that's a big responsibility for the designers in that respect. So a typical face-to-face conversation when we are talking with somebody has three points. So one is the beginning of the conversation, then how it progresses, and at the end how it finishes. So this is very important to understand that how it begins, what happens in the middle, and how it ends, because we are now designing a lot of chat boxes, voice assistants, and many other tools, and it should understand the face-to-face conversation and then try to mimic that. So for example, we can see a snippet of conversation wherein there are three people, and the first says hey, the second responds, third responds, and then how all three are responding, and it is like a seamless conversation. So now when we are talking on the phone, okay, so the norm, the social norm is that we will start with a greeting. So if I need somebody's phone number, I will probably call, and the person would say hello, and then I would say hello, how are you, and then I'll ask for the phone number, and maybe while talking I'll also ask a few other things and vice versa, and then we'll end with a greeting, okay, take care, bye. But when we are chatting online, whether through WhatsApp or through any other messenger for example, then the greetings, how we greet changes. So then I will probably be very point blank and say hi, Vishal for example, do you have Rachit's phone number? So he will respond, maybe he'll just send the card, and I will say thanks. So you can see that how in these two mediums the beginning and the middle and the end of the conversation is so different. So there are certain rules, or we can say there are certain conversational mechanisms that help us coordinate our talk with the other person, and it also tells us when to start and when to stop. So these are sort of like cues, which like in a theater there is a certain dialogue after which the other person knows that now it's my turn to go on the stage. Similarly, when we are conversing, then also we have these cues, which could be verbal or which could be physical as well. But there are certain rules also that apply here. So generally when one person is talking, and this is in a say a physical setting, so one person starts talking, and then once he has given his views on it, so he will probably ask the other person that okay, you can now share your views on this. So the second person has a choice that he can start discussing his thoughts on it, or he may not respond. So once the second thing happens, whereas he is not responding, or he's just maybe giving some physical cue by shrugging or shaking his head, then the first person will either ask the another person to respond, or he will continue, he'll pick up the conversation and he will add something there to make the conversation go further on. Now certain verbal cues also indicate that when somebody will be concluding their talk, or how long will they be talking. Look, for example, when we are in sitting through a speech and there is a guest and they say, I'll take just 2 minutes of your time. So we sort of time that, okay, 2 minutes, maybe five, but it will not be half an hour. So these cues help us also organize our what probably we will be asked to say, or other activities that we may have planned. So for example, the verbal cue can be, one may say, I want to talk about two important things. So we know that we have to look for two things, two important points that this person will mention. Or they may say, they may end that, okay, this is all I want to say, or okay, that's all from my side. So these are some verbal cues which tells somebody that, okay, now my turn may come, or okay, or for the presenter, okay, I'll have to ask somebody else from the audience to join in. And in the physical, cues can be walking away, or some facial gesture, or some physical body indication which tells that okay, I'm done with this. So how does that work when it is a digital medium? So we have seen during COVID, when we were teaching, learning online, so how the prompting happened, how the teacher would ask the student to speak, and then how much time it would take for the student to respond. So there were many other challenges. Sometimes something did not work, or maybe we could not see because the camera was not on, so we could not get a physical cue. So there are challenges when we are working on a digital platform, but how do we make it as seamless as a physical conversation is something that we need to see. Then there's another thing, which is the adjacency pair. So adjacent pairs next to each other, so which means that conversational turn taking, so wherein the conversation will be started and then somebody else will take over it. So these are, so there are two utterances. So utterance as in uttering, or utter or speak, and two people, one after the other. So here is a couple of examples. So wherein call or beckon, so where the response will come. So I will say waiter, and then the person will say, yes sir, yes ma'am. Complaint, where I am complaining something, and then they will provide me with a solution for it. So I would say it's awfully cold here, and they will say, oh okay, sorry, let me close the window. Then the offer, so where I'm offering something, and the other person may accept it, or they may reject it. So I may say to a friend, would you like to visit the museum with me this evening? And either they will say, oh, I'll really like to join you, or they may say that no, I'm busy, I can't today. And the other is compliment, where I may be complimenting somebody, and they may have the choice to say that, oh thank you, or they may say that they may not take the compliment very graciously, so they may refuse it, that oh, it's it's not really how it was supposed to turn out. So this is how the natural conversation happens, and how one speaks out something and how the other replies to it, it gets the conversation going. Now sometimes what happens is that these adjacency pairs, they get enmeshed into each other. So, and there may be times when there may be a longer time that will be taken for a response, because people generally are not aware of following conversational mechanisms and would be hard pressed to articulate how they can carry on a conversation. So it's not a rule that people will follow such rules. So humans being humans, they probably will cut into a conversation. They may start talking about something else altogether, right? So it is not that these rules will be followed. They are very organic when it comes to a one-on-one conversation. So for example, in this example we can see that I suggest that, would you like to visit the museum with me this evening? But my friend probably is observing some nearby shop, and they say, oh, what a nice display window. And so of course now I am focusing on the second part of it, and I say, oh yes, it's actually quite nice. but now they are responding to the first question I asked, and then they say that, oh yes, I'd like to go with you, or sorry, I can't, right? So we don't follow rules that one question will lead to its answer and then the next question will ask, and so that is how the natural or organic flow of the conversation is. But sometimes there may be cases where there is a question has been asked and there is an awkward silence, so that means the conversation has had a breakdown. So breakdowns in conversations, they arise when someone says something that is ambiguous, it's not very clear, and then the participant may be misinterpreted as something else, and in this situation the participant will try to overcome this breakdown, and they will use certain kind of repair mechanisms to undo this damage that was caused. So we can see from this little example here that one person is asking for directions, so he says that, how do I reach the bus stand? So the other person says that, take a right, and gives the direction, next to Ganesh temple take a second right. So but the first person, of course being new, doesn't know the area very well, so he says, okay, right from Shiv Mandir. So the the second person then responds that, no, not that road, that's a wrong road, second right, second right. So we can see that there was some breakdown because the first person did not really understand the directions very well. So the information was not processed properly, and this person may have gone on in some wrong direction, but then the second person was responding to his query, repaired by giving a verbal feedback, and maybe also a physical feedback of shaking his head and pointing with his hand towards the right direction. So now in a conversation breakdown, when that happens, then how do we repair it? So especially in two areas, for example, how to point out a mistake. So I've made some mistake, maybe I have sent a mail and I've forgotten to attach one attachment in that email. Okay, how one will respond? So if I now think of it in a physical scenario wherein I am supposed to give somebody a physical file, and they may say that you forgot to give me the file, you came to give me the file, you didn't give it to me. Okay, so that is how they will remind me, and I'll say, oh yeah, sorry, here it is. But if I am sending a mail and I forget to attach a file, then how will they say? They will not speak the way they were in a physical setting. So they may have to remind me politely that I received your mail, however, you have forgotten to attach. So the way they respond will be different. Or when I need some information from somebody, how do I remind them for a reply? So in a physical way, I may sort of nag somebody that please send, you haven't sent me still. But when I am using a digital platform, mail, message, then I have to know that how do I don't come across as very maybe aggressive or too pushy. Now remote conversations, as we know, are becoming increasingly popular in recent years, especially due to the technology and also the rise in remote work, and especially after COVID we have seen people are working from home quite a bit. So this helps people to communicate and collaborate. That is what we want, because in a physical setting it's always a teamwork. In whatever field we go, there will be several people working together on a project, and we want to maintain this also when we are working remotely, that how can we communicate, collaborate, not only from our organization but also maybe from some other country, because now all the areas are becoming interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary, and we can have international collaborators. So how do we do it? So now it is becoming specifically important because it allows us to communicate, and they all have their own unique features and benefits, and depending on our requirement we can choose which mode we want to use. So for example, for this particular task, what is the best way? Email, instant message. Now if I am in a rush, I want some information quickly, then maybe sending email will not be the right choice, because it will, the person may not be sitting on their computer, or they may not check their email that frequently, but rather I can send a message, or I can also call, so that I get a urgent response. Or if we are collaborating, we are working on a project together, then maybe the best way would be to have a video conference where we can also share our screen, and we can discuss our way forward on that screen. So co-presence is basically, and we can say, an extension of telepresence. Telepresence nowadays is it's becoming very popular, wherein people who may not be there but they are present in another mode. So if in hospitals it is becoming increasingly popular, wherein patients who are not diagnosed or who are not checked by maybe a real doctor, but he is present and he is asking the patient about the symptoms. Sometimes even children who are sick cannot go to school, so they have these robots with the screen having the face of the child, and then the robot can be operated so that he is able to listen to the teacher in the class, even though he is sitting at home, but he feels like he is physically there, and other children also feel his presence. We also saw this in television. We see this often in many of these sitcoms, like this Sheldon Cooper, who went around as a robot. So we see all these examples around us, and it is becoming increasingly popular. Now co-presence is also becoming very important, and because a lot of technologies are enabling people to use them together as a group. So the motivation for this is to enable co-located groups to collaborate more effectively when we are working or learning or socializing. So we can maybe recall that there are these smart boards, there are these surfaces. Even Teams is this Microsoft platform which allows people to put up their work, create assignments, review the work as a team. Even Figma, the software, a number of people can work on it on the same file. People can work, they can modify it. You can also control that who accesses what in that file. So there are all these options are available, so that people are not working on the same work in their different silos, and then they have to put it all together. Rather, one place where whoever gets the time goes on the platform, adds his or her bit, and then the other person adds their part of the work. So it makes the whole system more efficient. So when people are working closely together, so they talk to each other, they are giving commands, and they are letting people know that how are they progressing in that tasks. So for example, if I have to shift the sofa to another wall in my another corner in my house, then I will be instructing the person that little left, little right, yes, okay, on put it down. Or if we are putting a poster, that it's straight or not straight. So we are giving these verbal instructions. Okay, so and along with these verbal instructions, there are also non-verbal instructions which are given by our physical body. So we will maybe nod our head or shake our head or do some other, give some other cue, so that the person knows that whether they are in the right direction of what is expected of them or no. So co-presence has another aspect, which is awareness. So when we are, for example, say at a social gathering, and we are maybe talking with somebody, but at the same time we are also through a peripheral vision, we are also aware that what is that group of people doing, or what is the other group of people doing. So we know that how is somebody's mood getting little, somebody's getting upset, or somebody is sitting alone in a corner. So we, while we are talking, conversing, and we are responding, but we are still aware of our surroundings. So this is quite similar, that how this how a person's ability can be maintained and updated, so that they know that what is going on in the physical and the social context. Now these learnings from co-presence, that how people like to collaborate, how they like to work together, how they have that peripheral understanding of activities going on around them. So this information or this knowledge is very useful when we are designing interactions for shareable interfaces. So one assumption here is that shareable interfaces provide more opportunities for flexible kinds of collaboration compared with single user interfaces. So with the help of fingers, making the screen like zooming in, zooming out, using pens, annotating with different colored pens. So these help in sharing of the idea, and also helps in developing the peripheral awareness, because we know that what the other person is coming up on the other side of the shareable screen, and then how do we include that, or how do we take that work forward from there. So the shareable surfaces are also considered to be more natural than other technologies, because people feel encouraged or they feel enticed to actually touch them, and they don't feel intimidated, because now they are working in a group. If in a class, for example, a teacher asks a student to go up to the board and solve something, so the person out of the class of 20-30 will feel a little, not that confident, because he may not do a good job on the board, so that will lead to some kind of embarrassment. But if a teacher asks 5 students to come and attempt this on the board, then the level of embarrassment or the hesitance would be little less. So the same thing goes here in shareable interfaces as well, that people feel more encouraged to use them, and of course when they are encouraged, then the output is also much improved. Now, so social engagement refers to how people participate in activities in the social group. Now, how do we take this social engagement forward? How can we, include certain groups maybe of the society who can also benefit from this social engagement, maybe who are not currently feeling as engaged as they would like to, depending on many factors, socioeconomic level, or the age factor, or maybe their impairment, or many other factors could be there. So one example of this is a particular website that supports pro social behavior, and it does that by offering activities which are intended to help others. So there are many such, websites that do this. So one example is where a website connects people who like to run, so runners with elderly people who are isolated. So when they are out running, they will on their way they will stop and chat with the elderly person, okay, maybe have a small conversation, or maybe they will help them out somehow, just maybe run back to the grocery store and bring some supplies for them. So this helps both the parties. One person is doing his or her regular exercise, but at the same time the other person is also benefiting from their presence. So like earlier I mentioned that how that empathy, we are losing out on empathy if we are all the time on a device, or we are multitasking, or we are just cluttering our brain with a lot of information. Then some of these social engagements can actually, when they are embedded into these systems, they can help decrease the damage that it may cause. So we have to find these innovative ways in which the society can also benefit. So what we can take away from this is that talk and the way it is managed, how we talk and the way we manage it, is integral to social aspect in interaction design, and how we can bring this into the interfaces. So how technologies that are developed can help people remotely, and how can we even improve them further. During COVID, when we were using certain platforms, we came across some glitch or the other, something or the other was not as we would have liked. So what are those problem areas? How can we work on them further? Already these, these online platforms have made several improvements already, but more is required. Then keeping our awareness of what others are doing and letting others know what we are doing is important, because we have to maintain that social bonding. And it is especially important when we are collaborating with others. Then how to involve into socializing and collaborating with others so that everyone benefits from this teamwork, and how the social media has changed our lives majorly, and how people are now changing the way they manage their life, and how can we look at the whole social fabric of our lives and how it can be integrated into the interfaces so that we can almost mimic or replicate as we interact naturally in a physical setting. So, we will end the lecture here today, and in the next lecture, we will see the role of emotion, because we have seen that how we all have a social responsibility as well as a social structure in our daily lives, and how emotion is also a very important aspect of it, and how the designers can understand the emotional workings of humans, and that will help them to connect with them better and design better interfaces. So, I will see you in the next lecture. Thank you.